everyone, and welcome to Politics with Payton. I'm your host, Payton Conway, and today we will be discussing a hot topic in politics, Trump's stance on refugees and how this has affected the climate of politics in our nation. Today I have with me Rosaria Bowie, Grant Cole, Rashawn Bassett, and Richie Canton. Up first, we're going to go ahead and discuss both sides of the issue. So, Rosaria, I know that you've been doing some research on the conservative point of view, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been researching the different conservative sides and, some of the liberal sides to see how things are going. But right now, mostly there's not much going out there from the Republican side other than, trying to back up Trump's claim that this is not a Muslim ban. Yes, of the 7 countries he's banned, they are very Muslim-based. But we also have the suspension of the Syrian refugee program, indefinitely. We have the 120 days on in the entire refugee program that's being banned. Also, we're adding additional screening for migrants and the suspension of the interview waiver program for refugees as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that, Rosaria. Now, Grant, I know that you've been looking at the liberal side of the situation, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that?
All right. Through my research exploring the liberal point of view, I've discovered a lot of people were unhappy with the wording of Trump's travel ban, that the executive order was rushed, it was poorly worded. A lot of people didn't know how to actually execute this order, and that caused a lot of chaos in the airports. A lot of families were split up, a lot of families were angry. And of the countries that he's banning, we really haven't seen a lot of terrorism from them versus the ones he's decided, I'm not going to ban them. And upon further investigation, you find out that all these countries that he's excluding, he has business interests in. So is Trump really doing this for our country, or is he doing it for himself?
Great issues that you brought up there. Now, for Rashawn, can you tell us a little about your area of expertise in this situation?
Absolutely. A lot of times people are looking at this ban and they're feeling like it's unfair and that people are being treated unfairly in what this ban is sort of suggesting. It's suggesting that people are being blocked from coming into our country because of where they're from, when those people individually have not necessarily done anything wrong. So there have been a lot of protests on social media. There have been protests, actual physical protests, people out in the streets protesting, and there have even been protests through specific organizations, even in the city of New York, and a lot of other larger places where people have been really getting out in the streets to sort of express their dislike for this ban and their dislike for what our president is doing.
All right. Well, thank you, Rashawn. Richie, what insights do you have from the refugee point of view, who are really they're the ones being affected by this ban?
Well, Peyton, refugees are absolutely outraged. I've definitely found 3 different themes in my research. For one, solidarity. It's created a massive outpouring of support. People around the nation, around the world, are solid in their efforts to kind of combat what's been done and what we consider a human rights issue. Secondly, outrage. I mean, like Rashawn noted, it's been plenty of protests. People are protesting all over the place. Different religions, too. Muslims, Jews, Christians, people from different countries such as Japan. They just see it as a human rights issue. And the third thing is American idealism. American ideals that stress land of the free and home of the brave are being compromised here for a travel ban that doesn't necessarily make sense. So refugees are being put in a tough position. They're being displaced. Families are being torn apart. And it's just, a travesty in my opinion.
All right, well, all great insights, all good things to consider. So we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Politics with Payton. Next up, we'll be discussing the climate of this ban on social media and what politicians are saying. So, Rashawn, can you tell us a little bit about what people are saying about this ban on social media?
Well, generally, the reaction we're getting from the people on social media is that they're against this ban. What we hear from a lot of celebrities, what we're hearing from a lot of public figures, people are speaking out just to share their perspective, and they're saying that we're not here for this ban. This is not what we agree with. This is not what our country is about. We've heard from a variety of different people, a variety of different things, sharing that it's hit them home personally. It's hit them. A lot of people are feeling like I may not necessarily be one of these people who are being affected, but I know people who are affected. On social media, a member of Congress, Representative Ruben Kuhn, tweeted at POTUS, I once was undocumented, now I'm a member of Congress. Hashtag no wall, no ban. Singer, songwriter, and actress Rihanna tweeted, disgusted. The news is devastating. America is being ruined right before our eyes. What an immoral pig you have to be to implement such BS. Businessman Russell Simmons tweeted, I have worked for decades on religious tolerance. At the real Donald Trump's Muslim ban is against everything this country was founded on. Shameful. And we even have actress Alyssa Milano sharing a picture with the caption, my best friend Ala Muhammad Khalid is Muslim. His parents were Palestinian refugees. His brother is DJ Khaled. Refugees are welcome. So generally what we're seeing again is that people are speaking out against the ban, and celebrities, public figures, majority of what we're seeing on social media is a negative response to this ban, and they're saying we don't want it, we don't believe in it, we don't think that this is the right direction for our country, and I think that we really need to switch it up. And I think that's really what people are generally saying.
Okay, all right. Now, for Rosaria, you've heard, as Rashawn has stated, that we have people, both celebrities and just everyday citizens, protesting this ban. And on the conservative side, we've had a lot of conservative politicians been very quiet since the announcement of this ban. And even our Vice President Mike Pence, who originally was against the ban, is now supporting it. So what do you believe is going on in that situation right there?
I mean, everybody's entitled to their own views, as we've seen. But when it comes to this, like, the executive order does not anywhere state that it's specifically a Muslim ban. Yes, they're from mainly Muslim countries, but this is more of an issue for national security. The reason, if we look back even into the election, not many Republicans or just in general people voting for Trump were voicing their opinions that they were voting. You know, the polls were completely upheavaled when this happened, like no one saw it coming kind of thing. But that's also how you can kind of view this, is people are afraid to show their opinions from the conservative side. Like, yeah, liberals can go out there and kind of say what they want to say without too many repercussions of people coming down on them. For example, Piers Morgan, he spoke up supporting the trial ban on a talk show early last week, and he's just been getting rained down from other celebrities such as J.K. Rowling, John Green. They're all attacking him through Twitter and making, just smart remarks towards him for his support of the ban. So that's why people aren't voicing their opinions in support of this ban as much publicly.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you both for your insights, and we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Politics with Payton. Before the break, we discussed social media and politicians. Now we will be discussing where we go from here. 67,000 refugees had been approved by the federal government to enter the U.S. More than 6,400 refugees had already been booked on flights when the ban was enacted. So Richie, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Peyton, I think it's first important to acknowledge what it really is. We've seen CNN call it a refugee ban, when a lot of people have been calling it a Muslim ban. So the fact that they're kind of taking a more neutral stance is important, whereas an outlet like Fox News, they've been calling it an immigration and a travel ban. And so I think the discrepancy in what the ban actually is has created a big disturbance. I know the former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, went on Fox News and called it a misunderstanding in that we're trying to protect America. So how can we go towards the future when there's a misunderstanding as to what the ban actually is and who it affects? We can talk about who it affects. 67,000 people have been displaced essentially when the ban was active, and 109 people were detained at airports the week of the ban. So it's created a worldwide travesty, and I think the fact that President Obama had to, release a statement from his vacation saying that it was unconstitutional and human rights are being affected is important. And the second thing, they said that they're going to create safe zones in places like Syria, but research has shown that those safe zones don't do anything. So refugees can't go anywhere until that problem is solved. And luckily, we've seen places like New York ban it.
All right, well, you bring up a good point there. Several states have already banned the ban itself. So, Grant, why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Yes, there have been courts that have overturned this, and Trump himself is actually trying to appeal to get things back in action on his end. So what has me worried as if the UN might actually decide to step in on something like this, because this does kind of fly in the face of the UN Refugee Convention. Article 3 from their convention states that the contracting states are to not discriminate on refugees based on their race, religion, or their country of origin. And since the United States is one of those countries, it begs the question, is the UN eventually going to get involved with all of this?
Okay, yeah, that brings up a good point. As I stated, we're going to be talking about where we go from now. Where do we go from here? So, Rosaria, tell me a little bit, where do you see the conservatives going from here?
With the ban actually not in place currently, I can only see us trying to move forward due to this executive order being in such a rushed fashion. I can only see taking a slower approach and a better worded example to keep our country safe. Because as Trump wanted, this was supposed to be a way to keep our country safe from terrorists and terrorism. And in order to do that, we just need to find a more constructive way to keep bad people out of our country.
Okay. And,
Based on the response that President Trump actually gave on Twitter, it sounds like our future, we're looking towards fighting this, and that he's planning to sort of go against what's going on in the courts to sort of enact this ban and to keep it going in the direction that it was originally going in. He actually tweeted something on his social media, as he generally does, and he got up there to share with everybody that he still wanted to keep America safe, and shared how important it was to him and how he's not giving up on it. So I think it definitely shows that that's where we'll be headed in the future. He's going to be trying to fight this, and I think that we're looking for more division in our country, honestly, which has been a big thing that we've been seeing talked about on social media, is that there's a division between people who are agreeing with the ban and disagree with the ban, and who are sort of feeling like our country's moving in the wrong direction, and people who feel like we need to turn it around and go in an opposite direction.
Quite frankly, I find the fact that she said that we have to reword what the ban is and, kind of revise it is problematic. We have a president that rushed in a ban that he really didn't know what he was doing with. And in his executive order, he said he wants to, place that however long the ban was to kind of figure out what's going on. We have Pentagon not sharing intelligence with the White House. That's problematic. I find the fact that, the federal government is kind of split down the line right now, and the fact that things are being misworded and things are being rushed is a huge issue. So refugees lives are being put at stake. People are going back to places that are dangerous because of a problematic presidency thus far. And I think the fact that there's kind of a nonchalance about it towards the lives at stake is a huge issue. So refugees can't move past it, and that's why you've seen millions of protests. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I think that we'll continue to see solidarity, and we'll continue to see people in outright protest against what they think is ridiculousness from the 45th president.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it definitely speaks to, again, as he pointed out, the division in our country. I definitely think that it speaks to the idea that we need to figure out what we can do to come together so the White House and the Pentagon and et cetera can get back on the same page.
All right, well, I want to thank all of you guys here today. Thank you for being my panelists, and I want to thank you all for watching. It's been another episode of Politics with Payton. We'll see you next time.